entirely.
No, yeah, some people even
it.
still play it a little bit.
Yeah, like Arcanteleon was, they called it French vanilla. It was just such a solid deck that kind of scaled with your own mastery curve, and now it's also gotten a few interesting tech cards to adapt to the current metagame. And so if you put in that legacy work to come back, especially as you said, a player like Ian Robb, who took a little bit of time off, it's like riding a bike.
Absolutely. You never forget how it works. Nicholas, on the other hand, is going to be playing Hisuian Gudra V-Star, something that was very hyped up the past couple of weeks. Of course, Stefan Ivanov just got second place at the Liverpool Regional Championships with this deck, and that really kind of put it at the front of a lot of players' minds. Stefan's one of the best players, not only in Europe, but just in the entire world, a multi-time international champion. So whenever he picks up a deck that is not a meta deck, a lot of people tend to pay attention to that.
And when Gudra comes onto the scene, this is a Pokemon that makes a big splash. It tests the metagame. It tests the room. Do you have the means to deal with a Pokemon with this much effective HP? Do you have the damage numbers to reach this? We saw, Crabominable V, things of that nature earlier, Giratina trying to make its way into the metagame, but if you can't deal with that rolling iron, that moisture star, you're going to be in very dire straits, Chip.
A couple of awkward prizes for both players here. Ian not having access to the Radiant Greninja. That's a really important piece in order to not only draw through your deck, but you can also threaten some damage output. Try to get off that Moonlight Shuriken, knocking out multiple Comfies. On Nicholas's side, did prize the Manaphy, which would normally be a little scary because you're worried about Radiant Greninja, but we know Ian's already prized it.
With the Radiant Greninja starting off for Nicholas, however, it's going to be a pretty solid turn. Just goes for the concealed cards into the manual attach and retreat to go into Comfey. And now the Flower selecting. There was a Scoop Up Net and another Comfey, I believe, offered up there.
Yep, and already the it's always funny whenever you watch a Lost Box player look at the two cards and then set them down and look at the hand, because you just know it's already an awkward choice right off the bat. Nobody wants to send a Scoop Up Net to the Lost Zone on turn one, but sometimes it's what you have to do.
The Scoop Up Net is worth so much more, I feel, in this archetype. It's not just, I get to use this effect, I get to move something out of the active. It's about getting the recycling of that Flower
being able to use the Comfey again.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Another Flower selecting, Temple of Sinnoh going to the Lost Zone. Not a matchup where it's going to be too relevant either, so a bit of an easier choice to offset that first one, rebenching the Comfey, and then into the switch there, beautiful. And now third Flower selecting being offered up. Quick Ball, what was the other one, Chip?
Looks like a Capture Energy is the other choice.
Ooh.
So we'll grab Quick Ball instead here. Doesn't have a Gudra V in play just yet, would maybe like to get that down, as Quick Ball will be played, and we'll see if that is what he eyes up.
And because Nicholas is playing an archetype that's a little bit more reliant on that Mirage Gate, kind of taking the place of Arceus V-Star, right? Being able to accelerate that energy, you want to go a little bit more full tilt when it comes to sending things to the Lost Zone, making choices that are more weighted towards recycling your Comfeys and going off there.
Irida is a great start here for Ian, who's probably going to be grabbing out a Sobble, and then Battle VIP Pass, I think, has to be the choice for sure off the item card.
Yeah, this is Irida's claim to fame right here. That was the the reason that this deck was so strong for so long. Having the Battle VIP Pass and the Irida working in tandem means that you have an incredibly consistent and powerful setup. Ian's also looking through the deck here, is going to see that Radiant Greninja is prized. There is one Hisuian Heavy Ball in the list. Hopefully that can be picked up soon, and we can get up and running to punish the fact that Nicholas does not have the Manaphy.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth in this matchup here. I think on paper you would have to favor the Gudra just a bit, because Palkia's damage output is reliant on how many Pokemon your opponent has in play, but it also, wants to be taking one-hit KOs, and that's what Gudra is avoiding, right? By being able to reduce that damage with the Rolling Iron, it makes it really difficult to respond. So Ian does have a few other interesting things in this deck, having the Articuno to try to paralyze, but Nicholas having the big Parasol is going to have options to try to play around those things.
Yep, and there's a Parasol being offered from Colress's experiment. Nicholas probably isn't aware of the Articuno right away, does send that to the Lost Zone.
That could be a big deal.
Yeah, so up to 5 cards now. You can see Nicholas just very excited to get towards this Mirage Gate, get attached to the Goodra V, hopefully find the evolution into Goodra V-Star, and just immediately take charge, get that first big hit in this matchup.
Yeah, if Nicholas can get off an attack this turn, he would be in an absolutely excellent spot. He does also play the Galarian Zigzagoon, so there is a world where Nicholas actually takes a knockout on this Origin Form Palkia V this turn. If he can get the V-Star, get the Mirage Gate, the extra energy, and then also find Galarian Zigzagoon and a Scoop Up Net, that would be 220 damage exactly to knock out this Origin Form Palkia V.
And I think Nicholas is doing the math right along with you, Chip, fanning the cards, planning the next move.
Looks like Quick Ball is in hand. He does also still need one more card in the Lost Zone in order to even be able to play Mirage Gate.
Yeah, so we'd have to find something that can switch this Comfey, but just passes, doesn't have the card to get that Comfey out of the active, but Ian finds the Hisuian Heavy Ball.
What a draw there for Ian, being able to get that piece when his Radiant Greninja is prized. Super strong because, like I mentioned, Greninja is such an important part of this deck. And there's a chance, if Ian can find a way to get a few water energies in the discard pile, we could see Moonlight Shuriken this turn targeting both Comfeys. It's kind of a lot to get at this point. There's no water energies in the discard pile right now, and Ian didn't attach for turn last turn, so that makes me think he probably doesn't have one in hand, probably doesn't have Bucket either. We'll see what he has.
At the very least, Radiant Greninja, with Nicholas taking a little bit of a more passive play, unable to get this Comfey out of the active, might give Ian Robb that extra turn that he's going to need. Evolution Incense comes through now. So we can get the Origin Form Palkia V-Star, or the Drizzile rather, just to keep thinning. This is very important, Chip, to get all these cards out of the deck and start figuring out, you know, what is my best line.
Yeah, Ian loves these Inteleon decks. Whenever he won the Collinsville Regionals earlier this year, it was with an Inteleon Arceus deck, kind of a toolbox with a bunch of different answers in it. So he loves trying to chain all of these different pieces together. Irida gets you a different water Pokemon, which gets you a Drizzile, which gets you, you know, just one piece after another piece. It all kind of flows together super nicely.
Yeah, just off the one card. Yeah, Irida's grabbed, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards now.
Yep. And
these are less cards that are in the deck for you to draw. With the Capacious Bucket putting the water energy in the hand, we can now get the Radiant Greninja down, get that in the discard pile. It's all starting to build up steam here, build up some momentum, Chip.
Yeah, Ian's Radiant Greninja is on his bench. It's up at just off the screen, though, so we'll see if we can get him to straighten it up a little bit. But, yeah, it is in play. That's why he's discarding that energy and drawing a card.
When the Drizzile engine is popping off, the world falls away. Nobody, he can't hear anything right now, Chip. As soon as his combo is done, then the Radiant Greninja will maybe come back into frame.
The cursed rule the region is the move here, though.
Oh, the 0% win rate attack here.
I don't know that it's quite at 0%. We've been saying that for a while, but there's no shot it's still truly a 0% because so many people have had to use it.
I know, a deck that we praise for its power and consistency goes for Rule the Region a little bit more often than you'd expect, but Nicholas going to open things up with the Colress's experiment. This is going to fulfill the final portion of that Lost Zone, of course. And so 3 cards to the hand, 2 more to the Lost Zone. Mirage Gate now online. We still have to find Goodra V-Star, however, Chip. Oh, yep. It is in the hand. Beautiful.
Yeah, this is his Colress's experiment, so he's got to... he's got to find 2 cards that he's okay getting rid of forever here. Things he's okay Lost Zoning. Drapion's a pretty good choice. Losing the boss is a little tough, but, you know, it's better than losing 2 of your Goodra V-Stars, because that was what was also there in the Colress.
Yeah, you've got to take it. Now, after all of those kind of awkward decisions are out of the way, we have Mirage Gate finally coming through to get the attachment to Goodra V-Star. And I think that there is one more energy in the hand to finish this off, Chip.
Yep, now just needs a switching card to get Comfey out of the active. Should be pretty reasonable that he could find that. And worst case scenario, he's actually got another Mirage Gate as well in hand, which could accelerate more energies into play, and one of those being a way to retreat this Comfey.
And if I'm remembering correctly, Nicholas just immediately opened with Colress, still has Flower Selecting to get one more shot at finding that switch card.
Ooh, both Parasols going down.
Both Parasols now in the Lost Zone.
That's a really big deal. Ian has not revealed the Articuno just yet, but he's actually got 2 copies of it in this deck. And that is going to be a way for him to try to stall out one of these Gudras if it gets up and running and attacking. Nicholas does have some switch cards, obviously, has 2 escape rope, 2 switch, so maybe he's relying on those being enough to get him through this.
And after the Mirage Gate attachment onto the Comfey, we can get the retreat. And that means that Hisuian Gudra V-Star is going to come up to the active and start getting its attack chain going. Having the first swing here is so important, Chip, especially, again, this is just an Origin form Palkia V.
I wonder if we've got the Goon play. That's the one thing I'm looking for here for Nick. If he can find that Goon, take this 2-prize KO, that would put him in an excellent spot. But for now, it will just be 200 damage, which is still really strong, but not taking the knockout means that this Palkia sticks around for another turn.
And when it comes to Origin form Palkia V, we've seen it time and time again where they just seem to run out of attackers, right?
Yeah.
You need to have another Palkia set up ahead of time. Now we've got the Shady Dealings Inteleon entering the fray with its Aqua Bullet attack, which can be very nice. Once again, Nicholas has no Manaphy to protect the bench. There's going to be a lot of additional damage coming through versus these Comfeys, versus these Pokemon that have very low base HP.
I think that Inteleon is arguably the most important card in this entire deck. Sure, Palkia is kind of the star, right? But this deck is really revolving around the Inteleon. That double Shady Dealings, being able to get 2 item cards. And you can see just those 2 trainer cards, I should say. Just those 2 trainer cards turned into so much more for Ian, getting him energies, getting him Pokemon, just able to find so much. And we see Palkia. I mean, this might be Ian's strategy, just try to hit as hard as he can. And he does play that Chilling Rain Inteleon as well.
The quick shooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can be able to drop down that extra damage counters onto the bench, really fix that math, take multi-prize turns.
Yes.
And this is going to be where Origin form Palkia is at its strongest, where the bench is relatively full here.
Yeah, and we haven't seen anything from Ian regarding the Articuno just yet, so that kind of tells me that he doesn't want to go that route yet, maybe recognizing that Nicholas probably has plenty of switching cards. It might not be that good, so maybe it's not something that's going to be as impactful as I had imagined initially, but it could come into play later if Nicholas has burned too many switching cards.
A couple other, thoughts might just be I feel like my foundation is set up. I might not need the Articuno right now, or maybe it's some sort of hyper late game play, because we know the Gudra is going to kind of drag this game out as it's just hitting and tanking and hitting and healing. So maybe Ian's just going to say, Articuno will come through, later on when I really need it.
Something Ian can do as well is spread damage around, right? Inteleon can ping the bench Gudra while the Origin form Palkia V-Star attacks into the active, because you want to keep damage on both of these Pokemon if you can, because obviously Moisture Star V-Star power from the Hisuian Gudra V-Star is incredibly strong in order to just totally erase an attack pretty much from your opponent.
And if the damage is spread around, Nicholas is going to eventually work into a position where there's just 2 Gudra in play. You don't really need anything else in the Lost Zone anymore, and it's just going to be a grind from there to get the final prize cards.
And spreading the damage is exactly what Ian does. Training Court can come into play and grab 1 more energy back, and I expect we will be seeing a Subspace Swell, which will be dealing 80 less damage than it normally would, thanks to Gudra using Rolling Iron on the last turn.
So we're going to put that down. Still hits pretty hard,
yeah,
however.
160, pretty solid. Still setting up for a 2-hit knockout, so that's going to put the pressure on Nicholas to go for the Moisture Star this turn, most likely.
And the timing of that healing is so important, right? The Moisture Star, just to negate that attack, means that you then get to swing back into the Origin form Palkia V-Star, take those 2 prizes while denying a lot of progress to the opponent. You're going to take advantage of the Training Court as well. Always like to see that. Yeah. And now Marnie for some disruption. The Lost Box is the new poster child for getting Marnie disrupted, but as we know, the Drizziles, the Shady Dealings, add so many cards to the hand, and you put those right back in the deck to also throw off these Inteleon engine lists.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good turn for Nicholas, disrupting Ian a bunch. We know that for a fact that Ian had Inteleon in hand because he just used it last turn, Scoop Up netted it. So now that Nicholas has put that on the bottom of the deck, it's going to be much less likely that Ian's able to use that piece.
A couple of Iridav have also already been used, so it's harder to fish that out of the deck. And there is the Moisture Star, fully healing all damage from the Gudra V-Star. Still has access to that Rolling Iron once again. Even bumps the Training Court with the Temple of Sinnoh.
Not something that's going to matter too terribly much in this matchup, I don't think. Now, Ian does play a couple of wash energy, so we could find ourselves in a situation where he's needing that wash energy to provide a basic water energy requirement, and it just doesn't work because it's only a colorless thanks to the temple. But I think the fact that Ian already used his 1 copy of Training Court could make this a little awkward. He does have a Lost City as well to work with, so that may force him to find that a little bit earlier than he may have wanted.
Yeah, the temple, just to deny the Training Court as well, is just fantastic. Decides to promote the Radiant Greninja with no Palkia in play. You know, we aren't going to have that V-Star power to accelerate the energy anymore, so we don't have the threat of the Moonlight Shuriken.
Now, Ian does play a Thornton, so it is technically possible we could see Ian Thornton the Manaphy into an Origin Form Palkia V and then evolve that into the V-Star and then use the Star Portal. I don't think that's something he's going to be able to chain together here, though. I don't know. Maybe he will, though. Irida just gets you so many cards.
The Thornton's actually so cheeky, but yeah, just goes
Irida
for the
can't, obviously can't Thornton if he's playing the Irida, so he's going this route. Can't quite get there this turn. And we do see an interesting tech. That
the Crabominable.
Yeah, that Destroyer Punch attack, dealing 90 damage plus 60 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So Ian's revealed that maybe a little bit prematurely there. Ended up not grabbing it, but now Nicholas is aware that the Crab is hanging around in the deck.
Yeah, again, this is another Pokemon that players employed to reach these really large damage numbers to overcome these sorts of decks where they're healing and tanking or just have enormous base HP. Quick Shooting going to put some damage counters on the Goodra V-Star, so now it's being set up for the Crab after all, and this just puts pressure on Nicholas, right? Already used the Moisture Star, and maybe Ian doesn't care. Says, well, now that you already used that effect, I can just start working on the Crab, start putting you under some pressure. Concealed Cards comes through to draw 2 more, and now it's just a matter of Nicholas reaching out and starting to take these knockouts. Gudra's still only giving up 2 prizes, but now Nicholas is 3 up from Ian Robb to close out this first game. Quick Shooting Inteleon comes up to the active spot, only has that waterfall attack. The Aqua Bullet,
that's not
was
doing
sent
anything
all
here.
the way to the bottom of the deck.
So the Quick Ball getting rid of that VIP pass, and we will see if it is Crabbin time. I don't think he can quite power it all the way up. It would have to involve some sort of Thornton play in order to get the Palkia V-Star. His hand might not be strong enough to do it here.
That's a very interesting idea, right? We know that these Palkia decks do struggle once they fall behind because you have to have 2 Palkia benched at the same time, so you always have access to that V-Star to keep your pressure going. Ian indeed does pull the Crabominable from the Quick Ball. And it's just a matter of, okay, Evolution Incense, finding the V-Star. Looks like this might actually be the combo after all.
Is he pulling it together? Is there the Thornton play is the question. Scoop up net.
Scoop up net. Crab in the active now. Rebench the Sobble.
And Shady Dealings Drizzile can go get the Thornton out of the deck. And I think with this Crabominable, I think this is going to be enough damage here to get the KO. He's going to be dealing, I mean, you have to deal so much damage, 350 damage total to a Hisuian Goodra after it's got the Rolling Iron rolling in order to knock it out. And the fact that there's a 40 damage on it, now you have to do effectively 310. And of course, the Crabominable, I think, is going to be getting there with those numbers. It's a lot of math happening here. I think he's got it. Looks like we're seeing the flip of that V-Star marker. 3 energies getting thrown on. The Thornton to pull out the Palkia, and Destroyer Punch is going to take out this Hisuian Goodra.
That's so sick. The effect of the Thornton leaving it specifically mentions turns in play so that we can just immediately evolve after we get the swap. And it all comes through thanks to the Quick Shooting.
Incredible. And what's crazy here as well is Nicholas does not have a great response to this Crabominable. It has 220 hit points. Goodra only deals 200. And also this Goodra right now only has 1 energy on it. So Nicholas needs kind of a bit here. He needs, in order to get a Mirage Gate, he needs to get this Goodra active. And if he wants to KO this Crab, he needs Goon and he needs another Scoop Up Net.
This was the missing piece as well that kept Nicholas from taking down that first Origin Form Palkia V-Star. And even though you're up 3 prizes, if your opponent also gets an attacker into the active that just punches and punches and punches, Ian's going to catch up very quickly.
Course's Experiment seeing a bunch of cards. There is Scoop Up Net, so that's a way to move this Comfy out of the active. Ordinary Rod will put some energies back, so if there is a Mirage Gate, that is kind of the missing piece here at this point for Nicholas.
Fortunately, for Ian, the Quick Shooting Inteleon is still in the active, so we're still going to be able to easily place those damage counters onto the new Goodra.
Nicholas has got it, though. Nicholas has got it. He's got the Goon in hand and double Scoop Up Net, so he can get this Comfy out of the active spot, put down the Goon, ping the Crabominable 2 times thanks to the Scoop Up Nets, and take the knockout. And now the question for Ian is going to become how to deal with this Goodra.
With both big Parasols in the Lost Zone, this is probably the point in the game where Ian has to pivot to that Articuno that he's not revealed yet.
Yeah, potentially, but he can't power it up. Oh, he's got 2 Raihan. That would be his way to power it up in one single turn. So we'll have to see what he can pull off. I mean, if there's a deck that can make it happen, it's definitely Inteleon. This is such a back-and-forth game. Nicholas is going down to just 1 prize card remaining. Ian sending up this Palkia.
Yep, so just the Ordinary Rod left. Ian's going to start things off with the Hisuian Heavy Ball. I don't think there was any more. Oh, yeah, there was a Palkia in there. That's right. He used it first to get the Radiant Greninja, and there was another Pokemon in there to also snag.
Looks like that Palkia will be coming down. The attachment for turn will be to the active. Oh, and it's just a pass.
Quick shooting pass.
Yeah, and Nicholas has it here. He's got, oh no, he doesn't quite have it because Ian benched the Palkia. If Ian had not benched Palkia, Nicholas could win with just an escape rope plus an energy card. It would just be enough in order to get the win here. Ian now is forced to send up this Palkia. It's the only thing he can send up that doesn't just get KO'd to the Rolling Iron immediately.
And with Comfey going into the active, this is very easy to switch back up. Nicholas just needs to find a way to take down the Palkia V.
Ian just looking at the top deck. The attack has already happened. He's trying to see, is there enough of a window for him to come back and win this? And I think he's conceding here. Yeah, looks like he's scooping up the cards.
Yep, so Ian Robb going to concede game number 1. Nicholas taking the first one, even with the big Parasols going to the Lost Zone. It didn't really matter. And fortunately had such a big lead, the Crabominable was not able to bring it back. First game going to Nicholas, and we're going to have plenty of time on the clock as we head into game 2.
Yeah, plenty of time for another couple of games. If you're a fan of Ian, Ian definitely is going to be trying to get the win here so that can force the game 3. But yeah, as Nicholas, I think you're feeling pretty good about that. Your opponent has the answers to your Goodra having the Crabominable. I mean, Ian pulled off an absolutely insane play with that Thornton, and Nicholas was still able to win that game.
With your opponent's tech kind of now out in the open, you have a much, well, not all of it. The Articuno was actually not revealed there. Ian maybe even thinking, I'll just scoop up because I don't want to reveal that from such a losing position. Wants to get a better idea of how to lock down that Goodra and get that paralysis train going.
Yeah, I'm thinking Ian is just not valuing the Articuno in this matchup. I mean, we didn't see him go for it at all in that first game, so I think that he's probably not wanting to lean into that strategy. Now, if Nicholas goes down too many switching cards, maybe he would. But yeah, it's a situation where even Parasol doesn't matter that much for the Articunos because you have just natural switches, right? 2 switches and 2 escape ropes to get out of it.
Right, and the way the Articuno works is it punishes those decks that can't switch easily, forcing Lugia to run the Bird Keeper. That first regional with the Emergency Jelly was absolutely hilarious.
Absolutely.
But as we get shuffled up and get ready for game number 2, Ian indeed does have a starter. And who's going to go first here, Chip? I wonder. After taking the loss in game number 1, do you just want to go first, go for your Battle VIP pass, just pop off in general?
Yeah, definitely. I think both of these decks do want to go first, try to get more of a setup. Looks like Nicholas is taking a mulligan, so Ian's going to have one more card to work with. I didn't notice anything too detrimental in his prizes. I guess that 1 copy of Shady Dealings Inteleon is not great. He does play 3 Inteleon in the deck, but 2 of them are the quick shooting Inteleon.
Yeah, to set up for the Crabominable, very important. And I remember that was sort of the idea way back when quick shooting was the best one that you ran, and then Shady Dealings was it for a while. And now we're kind of back to a bit of an older idea with the quick shooting Inteleon, especially again with the Comfeys and Pokemon that are just able to be sniped down pretty easily.
I would love to know what's being said at the table right now because these guys are cracking up. So
they're just happy to play some Pokemon.
Yeah, I love to see people just enjoying themselves, even in these, you know, high-stakes situations. A win effectively locks up a day 2 berth for both of these players, but they're just having a good time, enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, so Battle VIP Pass, Goodra in the prizes. It's a little bit rough. Ian missing an Irida. That was a massive card for him in the first game.
The Manaphy being prized for Ian as well could be a problem. Goodra is a deck that can, of course, use its own Radiant Greninja in order to snipe down some damage, you know, using that Moonlight Shuriken. So that's something that Nicholas could go for. Ian did value that Manaphy in game number 1, but he's not going to have access to it here.
Yeah, I remember back in the old Origin form Palkia mirrors, you know, getting the Star Portal onto a Moonlit Shuriken, sniping a couple Sobbles was incredibly strong to just put you so far ahead. But Ian's just immediately leaving the station with just the double Sobble, has the Palkia V and the energy attached for turn. Very basic, but a strong setup nonetheless. Back over to Nicholas, going to open up with the Heavy Ball.
Yeah, the dream, opening up with Heavy Ball, so you just get to check the prizes, see what you got. And Nicholas has 2 pretty good choices here. He can either grab a Cramorant, which would let him try to get a knockout here on Sobble turn 1, or could get a Hisuian Goodra V, and it looks like it will be the Cramorant as the grab. He is just playing 1 Cramorant in this list.
And now with Nicholas going second, that does open up access to Chorus's Experiment, means that the Cramorant being able to attack with its Spit Innocently attack is much more likely. Going to reslot down these prize cards, and Goodra V right back down in there, and now Nicholas knows it's missing. Can work on that a little bit later. Battle VIP Pass as well, completing the setup for this first turn.
Yeah, this is looking really strong for Nicholas. He was totally fine leaving the Goodra in the prizes. He does play a 2-3 line of Hisuian Goodra. He was fine leaving it there because he knows he has access to 1 more still. And I think with the Battle VIP Pass plus a Quick Ball in his hand, I believe he'll have plenty of access to those pieces if he wants.
And with the Battle VIP Pass, getting the Radiant Greninja in the Comfey, this is exactly what you need to see to start building towards those Mirage Gates. This is a deck that's fortunate in that it doesn't need to get the Goodra in play early in order to force that evolution. You want to time it very specifically along with the Mirage Gates coming online. Chorus Experiment offering up a few more copies of itself.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough call. I think that this is really the only choice for Nicholas. Has to get rid of the Ordinary Rod and a Colress, so that should be sending off signals to Ian that hey, I've got a Colress in my hand, I've got a Colress in my hand.
And after the other flower selecting as well, a couple energies being offered up, decides to, Lost Zone the water energy, okay. Keeps the capture energy. This can find Goodra V.
Yeah, it can get you more out of the deck, so I think it's just a little bit stronger. And it also can still be used with concealed cards if it comes down to it. Ooh,
goes
Scoop
for
Up
flower
Net or
selecting.
Manaphy here. Does lose the Manaphy.
Gives up. Didn't have it in the first game. Maybe Nicholas is thinking,
he's like, yeah, you know, I don't need it.
if I get far enough ahead, you have to use the Star Portal onto the Crabominable or another Palkia V to catch back up. Maybe the the Radiant Greninja isn't going to be that much of a threat anyway.
Yeah, it's a good point. Absolutely. Capture Energy can grab out that Hisuian Goodra V, and now with 4 cards in the Lost Zone, Cramorant is up and running, and we know it is waiting there in the hand off the Heavy Ball in order to take the first prize of this game, knocking out Sobble.
The Inteleon Palkia deck is at its most vulnerable here in the opening stages of the game. If you can knock out these Sobbles, you deny so much card draw, so much search from the opponent. There's a Spit Innocently. Nicholas going to take 1 prize, and Ian is now up with only 1 Sobble, 1 Drizzile. That is all you need, however, right?
Yeah.
Get the Drizzile, get the Shady Dealings to find the Irida, and then the rest of the turn goes from there.
So these are the type of turns that is really nerve-wracking when you're playing against Palkia, because in theory, if Ian could pull together a knockout onto this Goodra, Nick would be in an absolutely terrible position. It's a lot harder to do, though, now than it used to be, because Ian is not playing cross-switchers in the deck. So it means he would have to play Boss's Orders as the supporter for turn. He can't chain together Iridas or anything like that in order to find cross-switchers. So I think that's going to be pretty unlikely, as Ian just probably wants to set up a little bit more here. Doesn't have the strongest board just yet.
You have to take that extra turn of setup, but when Nicholas pops with this Cramorant, it does put you under a lot more pressure. Before, Nicholas was struggling to find those couple extra damage counters to take those knockouts, was trying to fish hopefully for Galarian Zigzagoon, but now you just have, no energy cost attacker, 110, 110, and Ian is certainly starting to feel the heat here. Evolution into Palkia V-Star does get some power into play. Another Sobble also being grabbed with the quick ball. So the foundation is there. The counterattack with the Palkia into the Cramorant is looking very likely. So it looks like Ian has certainly bought a lot of time for himself.
Yep, and this Subspace Swell is going to be dealing more than enough damage to knock out the Cramorant.
Also keeping up in the prize race, very important.
Yep, absolutely. And Nicholas does not have a great way to respond to this Palkia. I mean, his best shot is just going to be trying to get a Goodra V-Star up and running and swinging into it for 200 damage. Can't one-hit KO it, but I think if Nicholas can pull off at least the Rolling Iron attack here, he'll feel like he's in a solid spot.
All right, Battle VIP Pass. Pretty easy choice there to send to the Lost Zone, thankfully, after that second chorus that everyone knew that Nicholas had for sure. And we get the evolution into Goodra V-Star. So now Nicholas has his poster child attacker in play that can keep some damage up on the board. Flower selecting off the Comfey.
Does find a Mirage Gate, which is pretty solid. Does have enough cards in the Lost Zone now in order to pull that off. And does have the energy waiting in hand as well. So we could see the Rolling Iron, assuming there is a switch card in hand.
Mirage Gate. And before, in game number 1, Nicholas just went for the double Mirage Gate to get the energy onto the Comfey for the retreat. And might be the play here. I don't think I saw a switch card in hand, Chip.
I think I did see a Scoop of Net, actually. So that's going to, at minimum, be the option. So
is it better to use the Mirage Gate here to get the attachment?
Well, what he's doing here is he's going for that Moonlight Shuriken, capitalizing on the fact that Ian did not get Manaphy into play, doesn't care about Rolling Iron, and doesn't care about the damage output of Subspace Swell if you're getting rid of those benched Pokemon. Very,
very smart. Keeping the options open. There's the Mirage Gate into the second Mirage Gate now, just to get a little bit of love onto this Goodra to prepare for the next turn, and then the scoop up net to get this Comfey out of the active. The Moonlight Shuriken is going to come through big here, Chip. Yep. Ian has gotten a strong setup, but is going to be running out of resources here going into his next turn, and not to mention the depowering of that Subspace Swell.
Smart sequencing there from Nicholas as well, using the Mirage Gates before going with concealed cards, which he wanted to do this turn regardless, wanted to draw a couple cards. But it's important to play the Mirage Gate first because you don't want to draw into those energies that you need to be accelerating.
And after discarding 2 energies from the Radiant Greninja, that Sobble and Drizzile go down, and back over to Ian. Robb has to go for a Hisuian Heavy Ball here, finds the Manaphy one turn too late.
That's just, that's twisting the knife there. That is unfortunate for sure, because Ian would have loved to have had that last turn to totally shut down that potential play from Nicholas, and Ian is really left looking for answers here, finding a way to fight back in this one.
By getting the Manaphy down now, it does mean that it provides beautiful shelter to kind of pick up the pieces after that devastating play. The Origin Form Palkia V is still in the active. There is still room for Ian to find a lot more Pokemon to bench. Finds the Drizzile at the very least. Also picks up the Roxanne.
This is a big play from Ian, and it is absolutely his path back into it. And now we see Articuno coming into play as well.
With the Roxanne, both players have to shuffle their hands. Nicholas going to be set down to 2 cards. And Roxanne drawing Ian up to 6. We got 6 shots at finding some more Pokemon to bench to set up this Subspace Swell. Radiant Greninja is going to go down regardless. And the Goodra V-Star hasn't had a chance to attack yet.
Yeah, and combining this Roxanne with the fact that Radiant Greninja is going down is huge, because that's one of the main ways for these Lost Zone engine decks to get out of Roxanne is by using concealed cards, using Comfies. You just want to use all of these draw abilities to try to build that hand size back up again. We'll see if Ian can maybe run away with this game.
Finds Articuno number 2, manual attach return, takes down the Radiant Greninja, and takes one more prize. Still trying to keep up in the prize trade, but Nicholas losing out on some tempo here. Just has the Goodra V-Star. Comfey with the flower selecting, sends Drapion to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, and he's got a Marnie there in hand, so he's got at least some way to try to draw some cards. That's always a relief whenever you get Marnie, or when you get Roxanne, I should say, you at least are able to find yourself a supporter.
Mm-hmm. And Goodra just needs to get a little bit more energy attached to it. We got to find somehow another Mirage Gate as well off of this Marnie. There's a switch in the hand, and Nicholas just has to evaluate, are there any cards in my hand I want to use right now before they get shuffled back in? But overall, with Mirage Gate online, that's really all you care about.
He's got double switch in hand, so that might be what he's thinking about is, do I want to switch into Comfy first, use another flower selecting, and then switch into the Gudra? Choosing not to for now, just playing the Marnie and wanting to see what he has to work with off of these 5 cards before he commits to anything like that.
And with that Marnie resolving, we draw into Boss's Orders, another Gudra. And Nicholas Hacquebord is still in a pretty tight spot, I would say.
Definitely, and especially off of this that he wasn't able to find any switching cards, no Mirage Gates, so capture energy onto the active for turn. We'll bring one more basic down, but I think Nicholas is going to have to pass here.
Yeah, this is the part of the game where you kind of want your bench to get knocked out and just depower that subspace swell, rely purely on the Gudra. With no quick shooting Inteleon right now being threatened, the Crabominable isn't an issue, but Nicholas just not having the resources to respond to the Origin Form Palkia V-Star, and this is where it is at its strongest, where they pull ahead and your opponent can't respond.
He's going to try to get a little bit more moving here. Does find another scoop up net, so we could see him utilize another flower selecting, but instead wants to hold off on it for next turn, which I think is really smart.
Yeah, the scoop up nets become much more valuable at this stage of the game. You want to use it with Galarian Zigzagoon to finish off those knockouts, to get the prizes going. But Boss's Orders is picked up from the Shady Dealings in Inteleon. Gudra V-Star comes into the active. The Rolling Iron is not active, so it looks like enough damage might come through. Just a little bit more onto the bench should do it, Chip.
Yeah, I don't think that Ian can quite get there. He doesn't have damage modifiers like
no belts in this list.
Choice belts. Yeah, it doesn't have Galarian Zigzagoon or anything like that. So it's a lot different from the Palkia we're used to seeing in the past, right? This deck is trying to play more of a slower, longer game. So Ian, even though he knows that this opens up the door, obviously, for Nicholas to go for that Moisture Star, he wants to bring this Gudra into the active now. Limit Nicholas's options as far as any sort of scoop-up net, comfy chaining goes, and just try to deal with a 2-hit KO. And Nicholas actually does not think he can win from this position and decides to concede the game. We're going to game 3 here, Adam.
Wow, very smart, honestly, to just swallow your pride, scoop it up, have plenty of time to go into game number 3. The Gudra is going to be a slower deck regardless, wants to grind the opponent out, and you just want to try once more to get a much stronger foundation. Ian Robb was so far ahead from that point that you can quote-unquote waste an attack, just force the Moisture Star. It doesn't really set you behind at all.
No, not at all, and I wonder if Ian thought he was going to win that game. That's pretty interesting because I don't know that he was in the best spot, but he was able to, I mean, just that Roxanne, being able to Roxanne and leave Nicholas with not much to work with, was able to buy Ian that one additional turn he needed to just totally flip the board position and make himself be the one that's in a commanding spot.
Especially with the Sobbles going down early, the early KO of the Cramorant onto the Sobble. It didn't seem like Ian had a lot of resources to work with, but the Drizzile and the Irida was just enough for him to pull the pieces together and get massive threat potential in. And as we go into game 3, the players are still having a fantastic time here at the table, and this is going to be all in.
Yeah, Ian loves the camera, so he's enjoying himself without a doubt. Yeah, 13 and 50 seconds as far as the time left on the clock. Plenty of time for a game 3 to at least get to turns to where you feel like you can close out this one for sure.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see the 15+3, but Manaphy in the prizes and the Crabominable in the prizes.
And 2 Sobbles as well. This is tough for Ian. You only got one Hisuian Heavy Ball, so is not going to be able to be helped out too much. I guess the good news is that when you take prize cards, you're going to feel pretty good about most of those things that you could grab out of there potentially, but yeah, man, that is tough to start this one.
Yeah, Nicholas only has, one Colress in the prizes as a pretty awkward card, but pops off immediately with Comfey, Radiant Greninja, Battle VIP Pass.
Yep, this
has a chance to take a look through the deck here.
Yeah, could grab that Gudra out. We see that being brought to the front of the deck already. Another Comfy seems solid. There's actually a Comfy in hand as well. Maybe we see Cramorant be a potential option as well. That can usually be pretty strong as a turn 2 attack if you're not able to get to the turn 2 Gudra, where you can just play Escape Rope and then Cramorant knock out one of those Sobbles that Ian is likely going to try to bench a few of next turn.
Yep, There it is. Gudra, Comfey found. Ian starting with Palkia V in the active. Fortunately, Nicholas going first isn't going to go for any Cramorant shenanigans. This does give Ian a lot of time to kind of claw out of this position when you're going second. All you got to do is open up with that Irida and hopefully find those missing puzzle pieces to complete your setup. Flower selecting now. Sends a capture energy to the Lost Zone. Very smart here. The rest of the setup is pretty much already done.
Yeah, I had to debate between sending a capture energy and a metal energy to the Lost Zone, I believe. So wanted to value that specific type of energy. It's one of the things that's really important to navigate with these Mirage Gate decks is all of your different energy counts.
There's the attach return into the retreat, into a second flower selecting, switch going to the Lost Zone.
Able to pick up the Gudra V-Star, so that can evolve. Or sorry, it was another Gudra V, actually. Doesn't want to Lost Zone that. He does only play 2 copies of the card.
And there's just the pass of the turn. Ian Robb opens up with Capacious Bucket and get those 2 water energies, pulls those to the front immediately, and is now going to look through the deck and sees those Sobbles in the prizes.
Yeah, he's going to try to check some of these prize cards here, make note of what he has, what he doesn't.
Also sees that Crabominable is missing.
And I'm a little worried here because Ian did bring Lost City to the front of the deck.
Manaphy's missing.
Yeah.
Ian is already, sees the writing, sees that this is going to be a very thin game.
So Ian, by bringing the Lost City to the front of the deck right away, signaled to me, oh no, we're going to see a rule of the region. Ian does not have much. No other Pokemon put into play. Just an energy onto Palkia, and that is it. Nicholas could win the game this turn. It's going to involve that Zigzagoon play that we saw in the first game. He's going to need to find Goon, find Scoop Up Net, and of course get Mirage Gate and the V-Star. There is the Goon.
Oh, there it is. So Concealed Cards draws 2. The Galarian Zigzagoon goes to the hand. Then we got Hisui and Heavy Ball. There was just no Pokemon actually in the prize cards for Nicholas. The Colress's Experiment, I think, is, again, one of the only notable cards there. We just need to find the double Scoop Up Net, the Gudra V-Star, and a little bit more reaching and striving to get 7 in the Lost Zone for the Mirage Gate.
Yeah, that's got to be something else Nicholas needs to do, and I don't see a Colress or anything like that in the hand here. If he can hit a Colress off of this flower selecting, there's a chance, but no, I don't see it. I think Nicholas maybe has stalled out a little bit here. I don't think he's got any more reach to dig.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to take a really cheeky knockout, just close this game number 3 out immediately. But if it doesn't come, you're still in a fantastic position. 4 cards in the Lost Zone. Nicholas just immediately pivots into the Cramorant. You deal 110 to the 220 HP Palkia V.
Yeah, and this sets it up so that even if Ian does evolve into the V-Star on the next turn, ooh, I think he's already attached this turn. I'm pretty sure, yeah, did Nicholas not attach and retreat into that first Comfey?
I don't believe so.
Maybe not, okay. Was that on his turn 1? Is that what I'm confusing?
That's probably, I think that might have been what it was.
Got it. Yeah, we got both players seem to be on board with what's happening, and Ian is playing the Evolution Incense to grab out that Origin Form Palkia V-Star. If he's got an energy in hand, he can at least attack here. And that would be doing enough to knock out this Cramorant thanks to all of the Pokemon on Nicholas's bench.
If we can get the Cramorant out, it does force Nicholas to jump through a few more hoops here. But the other foundational cards of the list are completely missing. Without Sobble, there is no search. This is the massive part of the deck. You already talked about it, Chip, how the Inteleon is such a massive part of this list, being able to give you that surge, give you that damage threat, especially in the mid-late game. And Palkia cannot do it alone.
Yeah, definitely can't solo with Palkia, that is for sure. Does have that V-Star, like we mentioned, and the energy. We will see at least the attack for the knockout, and actually will be a boss instead. Not going for the knockout, but instead just hitting this Gudra and hoping that Nicholas is stuck with this active and can't get it out. And if he doesn't have Escape Rope or Switch, I think it actually is going to be stuck for a turn. Yeah, he doesn't have a way to move this Gudra. This play is going to work for Ian.
Wow, just has to pass right back.
What?
It's over to Ian Robb. A new lease on life. Goes for the stalling play to buy another turn, and it works out. Capacious Bucket getting 2 water energies out of the deck.
Yeah, 2 more energies out of the deck, thinning the deck a little bit more, hoping to find something. We see the 3rd energy coming down and 2 prize cards. Okay, and they're pretty good ones as well, getting the Crabominable and the Sobble as well.
So now Nicholas is down a Gudra V. Does have one more in the hand, but hasn't found the V-Star.
And the top deck for turn was the escape rope. Didn't have it last turn, and instead is now just going to swing in with this Cramorant. And yeah, Ian is all of a sudden in just a fine spot.
After so many turns with just the Origin Form Palkia V in play and nothing on the bench, Nicholas was not able to capitalize on that. Ian Robb is battling back like a true hero.
Yeah.
Up 3 prize cards now. Nicholas Hacquebord goes for the flower selecting. Scoop up net goes to the lost zone. Second scoop up net played from hand. Comfy comes into the active as well. Another flower selecting. This is going to be 5 or 6 cards now into the lost zone. And is offered an energy and then the Gudra V-Star.
Yeah, got to keep the V-Star here, I imagine. Can't really lose that at this position, and is going to need to probably play escape rope as well here. He's really thinking about it and actually will lose the Gudra. Okay.
Gives up on the Gudra V-Star.
And I think it's because he wants to use concealed cards here.
Yeah, there is still no mana fee for Ian Robb, so we can snipe this Sobble on the bench, keep the resources under control for Ian Robb. If you can just count on all my opponent can do on their turn is attack me, I'm happy with that. Goes for the escape rope to bring the Comfey back up into the active, and that's going to be card number 7 in the lost zone from Flower Selecting.
Yeah, Nick actually had the same choice, 2 Flower Selectings in a row. It was Water Energy Gudra V-Star and then Water Energy Gudra V-Star. So the first time he got rid of the Gudra, the second time kept the Gudra. So he has both, and this is a really strong play. Mirage Gate, both energies onto this Greninja. We know he kept that Water Energy earlier, so that is in the hand. Is going to have to play Mirage Gate regardless here, though. It looks like to retreat this Comfey even to the bench. But this will knock out both the V-Star on the bench and the Sobble.
And that's going to be 3 prizes then, going through over to Nicholas, catching up in this match. And this is going to leave Ian Robb again with just a Palkia V in play. Can he pull off another Miracle Chip to fight back with just 1 Pokemon?
Yeah, this is going to be a little tougher because Ian has his last Palkia V-Star in the prizes. The one went down, and now he only
has the Heavy Ball.
But again, remember, Heavy Ball can only grab basic Pokemon out, so it only gets the Sobble. That V-Star is just going to have to chill in the prizes for a little bit longer.
So what's the play then? Articuno.
I think we're probably seeing a rule the region, if I'm being honest.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Sobble is just put onto the bench from that Heavy Ball. Manaphy is found.
Oh, we're going to see a Hydro Break. He has the Raihan in the hand in order to get that extra energy necessary in order to take this KO.
Wow. The Hydro Break, 200 damage. It's beautiful, Chip. That's going to be 4 prizes now for Ian Robb as soon as he figures out what card he wants from the Raihan.
This is a scrappy set right here from Ian Robb, and I think the card he grabs off Raihan is a Roxanne for the next turn.
Yeah, I've never seen a player fight this hard with their back against the wall. And with Nicholas down to 3 prizes, has the Lost City from way earlier before that rule the region. Yeah, so this Radiant Greninja is going to go to the Lost Zone.
Yep, sending it to the Lost Zone means that Nicholas is never going to be able to recover it. And Ian actually took the Palkia V-Star off of the prizes.
It's all coming up roses, reshuffling those prizes with the Heavy Ball. I told you, Chip, it's the prophecy, right? The Heavy Ball.
Yeah, he's able to find that V-Star. That is absolutely massive here. So he's going to be able to evolve into the V-Star and play Roxanne next turn. Let's see what Nicholas can do, though, because he has a ton of cards in hand, and it's pretty reasonable to expect Gudra to attack here.
Yep, so there's Colress's Experiment. 5 being pulled to the top. Looks like a pretty easy choice this time around, Chip.
Yeah, Drapion definitely is going to be one of them, and looks like Comfey will be the other one sent. Now, Nicholas, of course, we talked about the play a few times in this game. He could knock out this Palkia, but in order to do it, he's going to need Goon plus Net, and I think he has used quite a few nets already this game. I think
it was troublesome because one net was forced into the Lost Zone, essentially.
Yep.
Had to use the other one to use that Comfey.
So I think he's got one more scoop up net hiding somewhere. If he could find that, we could see the Goon play come through.
Double Ordinary Rod has to shuffle a lot of energy back into the deck to make use of this Mirage Gate. Anything else you want to grab? Cramorant's also a nice grab, and the Gudra V. Yeah, just a fantastic suite of power cards being shuffled back into the list.
Ooh, and maybe Nicholas will be the one initiating the Roxanne here, playing his own Roxanne so that, Oh, no, he played the Chorus this turn. Can't forget that. Yep, already played the Chorus. Yeah, these players are going so fast here. I think are definitely aware of how much time is left.
Yeah, the veterans have that 60-minute timer locked into their bones. They know when the time is gone on long. 2.5 minutes left in the round. And with both players somehow in a pretty even-keeled position, they really want this to resolve. Fortunately, Robb, with 2 prizes left, if there is a +3, just needs to attack and attack. Hopefully he's in the position to do that. Flower selecting now sends Goodra V back into the lost zone in return for keeping Cramorant in the hand.
Yeah, Goodra's not super useful. I'm actually kind of surprised that Nicholas even put that back into the deck with Ordinary Rod, because if your benched Goodra V-Star ever gets KO'd, you lose the game. Ian only has 2 prizes left, so I don't think that Goodra was ever going to be super useful. So ooh, and this is a tough call here. Well, I guess with Greninja already gone, you can pretty freely be okay losing the Manaphy.
Okay, that's nice to know. So Cramorant does come out. Manaphy now in the active spot, just takes that KO with the spit innocently. So Nicholas now down to 2 prize cards remaining. We're back over to Ian.
Yeah, and I think Ian
he's got the Palkia V-Star in hand.
Yeah, Ian's just in such a good spot here. He's going to replace the stadium, get himself a training court, and he's going to play Roxanne, putting both of these players down to, or sorry, putting Nicholas down to just 2 cards. Ian will get 6 to work with here. And by taking this 1 prize knockout here on Cramorant, he now just needs Boss's Orders in order to close out the game and knock out Comfy with only 70 hit points. That's super easy to do.
And because Nicholas has struggled to put together the Scoop Up Net Zigzagoon play, Ian can see the Scoop Up Net in the lost zone, is looking in the discard pile, probably knows that that combo might just be off the table.
Yeah, have we seen, I can't remember, did the Greninja already go down? Because Ian could win this turn with Radiant Greninja, theoretically.
That is a good question.
Is Greninja in the deck? If it is, Ian just wins, and yes, sure enough.
There it is!
Yeah, Ian can retreat this active Origin Form Palkia V-Star, send up the Greninja.
There's the Star Portal into the Moonlight Shuriken, 2 prizes!
What a play.
Excellent. One of the most flashy plays that Palkia is capable of doing. Robb pulls it off right at the end in game number 3, down to the wire to close this one out.
That was an absolutely crazy couple of games. Even game 1 where we had the wild Thornton into Crabominable play. Man, what a set from these 2 players.
They both played their hearts out. Robb had his back against the wall that entire game number 3, and Nicholas unfortunately just was not able to fully capitalize on that situation. We saw the Goodra come out very consistently with the Lost Zone, with the Lost Box, but didn't have those final little bits and pieces needed to really tie the turn together.
Yeah, didn't quite come together for Nicholas there at the end. That'll move him to a 5-2 record, meaning he needs to win 1 and tie 1 in order to make it into day 2. But with Robb getting a win here, he's now at 6-0-1, guaranteed to be playing in day 2. And I know Ian is going to be going for more and more match points here as this round, as this tournament closes out with round 8 and round 9 coming up soon.
Yeah, Palkia Inteleon, a list that, a lot of players eventually moved on from. It was, I think, the most stubborn list from like some of the previous meta. The Arceus was rising to the top, Mew was still all over the place, and Arc Inteleon was just that list that a lot of players just never rotated off of. They always stuck with, they loved the deck, they loved how intricate it was, and now finally it's just a nice return to form in a wide open meta. You want something that's very strong and consistent.
Yeah, and Palkia is definitely that, provided with the consistency engine of Inteleon. And it feels like Inteleon has almost been phased out of the meta. We see it pop up every once in a while. Of course, in the Palkia deck for the most part, there's been a couple of Inteleon emergency jelly decks that we saw from Charlie Lockyer in top 8 of Toronto. That was a really cool one. But yeah, for the most part, it feels like Inteleon is kind of old news here at the end of the Sword and Shield era. Everyone's all about the Comfies, all about the Radiant Greninjas. But Inteleon is still very, very strong with the right archetype, and Palkia is just the perfect pair for it.
Yeah, the meta has basically gone back to decks that bench a lot of Pokemon. We had it for a little bit where players were relying on only having 2 or 3 Pokemon in play. They were actively targeting the Palkia list, forcing them to have the Leon and the Choice Belt and all this nonsense with the Echoing Horn just to get knockouts with the Palkia.
And the quick shooting, like
exactly.
all the ways to modify damage.
And now finally, there's just decks that